Welcome back to week 7 on 3B Farm. Stay tuned. So welcome back to another week here on the farm. I've got so much to do I don't even know where to begin. It's that time of year, and that's life on a farm, especially in the nursery and growing seedlings for the spring market and all that. So I'm going to jump into this and we'll see what all we get accomplished in this week's video. Now my priority this week is to get a lot of those seedlings moved out into my high tunnel so they can harden off. And last week you had saw I cleaned this area up and I'd moved this one bench top in here. So basically I need to create a little mini greenhouse. So what I'm going to do is I've got this 2x4 rack that I'm putting on my metal posts that are there. And you know, I don't want this just sitting on there. So basically what I do is just drill holes the size for these bolts, and I drive them down through the 2x4s into the top of these metal poles, which are really just electrical conduit basically that I had and just decided to use for this purpose. Once those are on there, and I extend them one more pole actually further than what they were, I bring out some plastic and go ahead and make sure it's cut to length so that it'll drape one side of this and drape the other side and both ends. And then I move the bottoms and tabletops down underneath of that. And basically I'm going to staple the top of this because there's some issues with the high tunnel, and if wind gets in here I don't want this to blow off. So I want this to be far enough down on the ground that I can use some bricks and different stones to hold this down too. And I just have this little mini space heater that I'm going to use for heating this. I used it last year and it served the purpose well, and it seems to still be working fine. So, you know, basically this is going to be my setup right here. Now I do bring some shade cloth out, and I add shade cloth to this to the top too, because these seedlings, while they've been under light, haven't been in direct sunlight. And I don't want them to burn the first day out in the get-go here, so I'm just going to use this shade cloth on top of all that, and actually it'll help insulate the top to some degree too. Now I do have this, a thermometer that I'm going to stick in here so I can keep track of the heat in here and make sure I get the levels right. And I'm going to run this a day before I start bringing seedlings out. And once I feel comfortable that all that's good, then I just start bringing out trays and trays and trays of different, cold season stuff to begin with. And basically the next several shots here you're going to see just basically broccolis, cauliflower, and cabbages. I have several different varieties of each of these in here, and it's going to take up the majority of this space. And then once I get ready to move the tomatoes, peppers, and the warm season stuff out into this space, then it should be warm enough that I can move this to another area of the high tunnel at that point in time and just put some frost cloth on it at night, because I don't want these to get used to being too hot. I don't want them to bolt and progress too quick in their growth. They're really a cool season plant. So basically, you know, it's a whole lot of cold season stuff, and this opens up tons of room down in the basement so I can start putting my tomatoes, peppers, and everything else in cell packs. Cucumbers and, and a lot of the flowers, I'm going to sell some of these in cell packs, but a lot of these I'm going to move up into 4 and 6 inch pots as well. So I start bringing out the several trays of these and start to get them to harden off a little bit. And I'm not bringing out the real tender stuff right at this point. You will see some stuff here in a minute or two that's not real succulent, but it has a lot of water in the stems, and I'm hoping this will be okay for them out here. But basically, I'm just going to bring out, these are all flowers down here at this lower end, and I'm going to fill this out with as much as I can stick in here to make room in the basement so I can upgrade more and more and more stuff. Now I am kind of worried about the plastic on the high tunnel. The crows perched on this end purlin through the summer and went down into my chicken coop to steal their feed. So they broke the seal on this whole end, and the wind has started to rip it back, and it started pulling back this one side of it as well. So for right now, I'm not ready to change the plastic. So I'm just going to take some rope, and I'm going to tie this corner of this down to this corner here to put some stress on it to keep it from flapping quite so bad. Then I have two of these ropes that I use for putting plastic on the tunnels. You can see the tennis ball on the end of it that I tie in the plastic to be able to pull the plastic across the tunnels. But I'm just going to take this rope and put a couple of tie-down straps on top that plastic to keep it from flapping and ripping any further than it already has for right now. Now on the other end of the tunnel, the door on this tunnel is a screen door. My wood door fell apart. You can see some pieces of it there over the winter. So I just stuck this screen door on there because it's what I had. But I need to come back and just enclose this with plastic as well, so there isn't a whole lot of airflow through the tunnel. I want the sunlight to heat up in there as much as I can. Now it's getting to the point where I really need to do a lot of watering, and I'm doing so much other stuff that I don't have time to keep up by hand watering everything. And everywhere that I have irrigation systems, I had all these joints that I took apart at the end of last summer with these union joints. And I'm just going to come through here and put all those back together so that I can hook a hose up to this and just let the irrigation do some automatic watering for me while I'm doing other things. This was a godsend last year with the drought that we had. And you can see here, basically, all I do is I've got one outlet that feeds that whole area, and I just bring a hose down here to this and plug the hose onto it. And then it's just going to feed the whole system. Now I do have 3 valves on there that control 2 different tunnels and 1 outside area. And there's only enough pressure on this to do one of these sections at a time. Like this is my furthest back tunnel, and it'll push all these heads in here just fine and water this tunnel, and then I have to do the other tunnel separate and the outside area separate from those. Now I am getting into, I've got 3 more rows to clean in the garden area that I got to plant, and a lot of these perennials that are at the ends of these rows, I've got to come in here and dig these out and move them. So I'm just kind of cutting back everything. That first one was mostly purple coneflower. There's black-eyed Susans here, then sedums and irises and just a whole bunch of stuff. And while walking around in here, I did notice that all my herbs, not onions, but I'm a loss here. Anyway, things are coming up through the straw, so everything wintered over really good. Now, that was garlic, duh, okay? But anyway, this is the screen that I have that I just got from a nursery that went out of business years ago. And it's basically just a 1/2-inch rat wire, and I put it up on blocks so I could get my wheelbarrow underneath of it. And I have these composted wood chips from years and years ago that I kind of have some tree root in it. So I just put that on there, and then I mix sphagnum moss and perlite with that and start filling containers to upgrade everything in the basement. Now there is a lot more stuff that I need to get started with seeds as well. My tomatoes and peppers really had a slow, very slow, and a low germination rate, so I'm starting extras of those. And some of my other plants I'm moving up into cell packs. There's a lot of things here. These 6-inch pots you saw me move outside earlier, I put these up into 6-inch pots in the basement for a couple of days and let them get used to their containers, and then moved them outside. And a lot of these, look how far into bloom these are. I've got another month before I really start selling these, so I'm going to have to start deadheading these to keep up with them. But basically, there's 2 flats here of seedlings. I am going to go ahead and start all the different types of squash in 1 flat here, and then there's some herbs and other stuff in that other flat. And I've got a lot of squash, and a lot of people like this at the market, so a lot of this I may grow out myself to sell the squash itself. And some of these, you know, I went ahead and moved these all up into 4-inch pots. I mean, there's some impatiens here, some geraniums, some coleus. I mean, here's some celosia. I'm also growing this real fine leaf verbena. The common name is moss leaf verbena. Everybody's used to the broadleaf variety of verbena, but I like this one a whole lot better. So these are just, you know, pictures down all the various shelves of what I've got in the basement at the end of this week. You know, and those first 4 that I went through there are everything that I have in the flower rack, and then these others are everything that I have in the 10-foot vegetable area. And basically there's 4 different shelves in each of these units. And, you know, you can see all the tomatoes here going into cell packs. They were starting to get a little chlorotic in those plug trays, so I'm glad I'm getting everything, you know, moved up a little better into containers and cell packs now. I need these to really get situated. I've got a month and a couple of weeks before tomatoes and peppers will really go out to the market, so there's plenty of time to push some growth in these and get them to a really nice sellable size. But I need to get everything else into cell packs. I mean, I'm 4 to 6 weeks away from the warm season market. In 2 weeks, actually, the cold season stuff needs to go out to the market. So there you have this week's video of 3B Farm. I did do some jobs off the farm this week and didn't get as much done as I would have liked to. And you know, there's tons of little things that I do on the farm that I don't really show. You know, the watering and all that. I mean, it takes about 45 minutes or so to water all these seedlings here in the basement each day, and I can spend 2 or 3 hours just watering the nursery outside, everything that's under plastic that's not getting rain. And really, we're not getting much spring rain, so even the stuff that is exposed to the weather is starting to dry out a little bit, so I'm going to have to start getting some of that watered. You know, I did hook up that irrigation system and water the 2 tunnels this week using my homemade irrigation crap that I've got in there, and then let it drain again when it was over, because we're still getting nights that are down into the upper 20s, and I don't want all that stuff to bust on me to where I have to repair it in the spring. I do have some areas that I've got to repair because I thought I had them drained last November and didn't have them drained, obviously, because there's busted pipes in one section. So that's something I've got to go back and repair here pretty soon so I can use that irrigation. In any case, I appreciate you coming back and sharing this time with me. Getting excited, getting close to market time. You know, we're about 2.5, 3 weeks away from the first market of the year. And while a lot of the tomatoes, peppers, and warm season stuff, it's a little too early for those. All the cool season stuff and nursery plants need to be ready for that. And I'm well on my way. Stuff is starting to leaf out a little earlier than it probably should outside as far as nursery plants and deciduous shrubs go. But anyway, if you do need nursery shrubs and stuff, you know, the market, April 11th at the Barber County Fairgrounds from 4 to 7 will be our first open day, and I will be there with bells and whistles on. So come out and support all the local farmers and me. I will have all the cool season stuff. I mean, we can probably start getting some of the cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, and that stuff out, especially if you use winter covers on nights that are extremely cold. They'll tolerate a lot of cold. They actually like cooler weather, and they bolt and go bad when the weather gets too hot. So, you know, if the temperatures and everything are a sign of the year that is to come, last year we had some really hot temperatures and one of the worst droughts in recorded history. So the earlier you can get started on stuff safely in the spring, the more you're going to have, and you know, produce you're going to have for your kitchen before the drought and the bad part of the season hits. So anyway, thank you for coming back once more and sharing this time with me. Subscribe to my channel on YouTube, 3B Farm, and you know, I don't get a video out necessarily every single week, but I'm going to try to get them out as often as I can. So Stay tuned for more goodies coming up as the season gets ready.